Secretary of State John Kerry has called Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov about possible Russian military buildup in Syria.
10 a.m. in Baghdad. We are at Fox News headquarters in New York and Washington, bringing you the very latest developments in this attack on Iraq.
Israel has been invading and occupying Lebanon all of my 24-year-old daughter's life.
Today, the region of the Middle East is on fire in the midst of chaos and conflict. The area has seen civil wars, foreign occupation, rise of terrorism, and foreign invasions for as long as we can remember. Many experts trace the instability in the region to two tragic events in history: the Sykes-Picot Agreement and the Balfour Declaration. 85 years later, in 2002, the British Foreign Secretary Jack Straw mentioned in an interview about the problems in the Middle East. A lot of the problems we are having to deal with now are a consequence of our colonial past. He concludes by describing the British role in the Middle East by saying, "An interesting history for us, but not an honorable one." Let's talk first about the Sykes-Picot Agreement, which took place on May 16, 1916. This year marks its 100-year anniversary. The agreement was a secret arrangement between the French diplomat François-Georges Picot and his British counterpart, Sir Mark Sykes. The agreement aimed to dismember the Levant, or what is also known as the Near East, into small states to the advantage of the colonial powers of France and Britain. One can imagine both men sitting in the Grand Conference Room in the Foreign Office, where they colored blue the portions on the map they agreed to allocate to France, and colored red the portions they would allocate to Britain. The twin sin to the Sykes-Picot Agreement is the Balfour Declaration, signed November 2, 1917. Which consists of a promise made by then Foreign Secretary Lord Balfour to Baron Rothschild that read, "His Majesty's government view with favor the establishment in Palestine of a national home for the Jewish people." This declaration was the seed for the creation of Israel that took place in 1948. The dynamics by which this declaration took place are best described by the British Member of Parliament, George Galloway.
I learned firsthand about the Palestinian cause more than 30 years ago in my home city of Dundee from a young Palestinian student, and now in my day job I'm working in the place where all of this trouble was hatched, the British Parliament. It was in November 1917 that the British Foreign Secretary Arthur James Balfour, on behalf of one people, promised a second people, the Zionist leadership, a homeland of what was then a third people, the people of Palestine. And that set off all the blood and horror which was to come.
Balfour reneged his own pledge of protecting the civil rights of the indigenous people of Palestine by a memorandum he wrote in 1919. "In Palestine, we do not propose even to go through the form of consulting the wishes of the present inhabitants of the country. Zionism, be it right or wrong, is more important than the wishes of 700,000 Arabs." The Balfour Declaration and the Sykes-Picot Agreement largely neglected the self-determination for the people of Greater Syria. A less talked about event took place during the same period. While the New World Power was being drawn by the Allies after World War I, the King Crane Commission was established. The commission was appointed by President Woodrow Wilson and comprised of Henry Churchill King and Charles Crane. It was conducted to inform American policymakers about the desire and aspirations of the people. The commission visited areas of Palestine, Syria, Lebanon, and Anatolia, surveyed local public opinion, and assessed its view on the best course of action for the region. The commission revealed that the vast majority of the people of the region overwhelmingly supported the establishment of a single Syrian nation. Both agreements have left the Levant divided into states that are weak and susceptible to foreign influence. Events in recent history show us how these small states have struggled since then. For instance, the sectarian system in Lebanon has kept the country dysfunctional and caused the civil war that took place from 1975 to 1991. The country still suffers from the effects of the war, which include a weakened economy, high unemployment, and a great exodus of the Lebanese people to the rest of the world. Moving on to Iraq. This small country has witnessed 2 invasions by the United States. The Gulf War in February 1991 and the more recent war of 2003. The US invasions have destroyed the country's infrastructure and caused hundreds of thousands of deaths and displaced millions of Iraqis. In addition, the humiliating Oil for Food program enabled the West to take Iraqi oil in return for the country to be allowed a small portion of food that its people desperately needed. This program was a humanitarian disaster. Here is the response of Madeleine Albright, then U.S. Secretary of State, to a question that was asked on 60 Minutes. She was asked if the price of 500,000 Iraqi children dying from U.S. sanctions was worth it.
We have heard that 500,000 children have died. I mean, that's more children than died in Hiroshima. And you know, is the price worth it?
I think this is a very hard choice, but we think the price is worth it.
Today, unfortunately, Syria has been in conflict for over 5 years now, battling terrorism and a so-called rebellion that is being funded by the West and Gulf states. The death, damages, and refugee crisis caused by this conflict have been insurmountable. Last but not least is Palestine, the root of all issues and a case of great injustice. The 2 sins brought to us the Israeli occupation that has exercised all kinds of human rights violations on the land of Palestine. Now for a message of hope from Khalil Gibran, a famous Lebanese-American poet who was one of the great thinkers to believe in a greater Syria, titled 2 Young Americans of Syrian Origin. I believe in you, and I believe in your destiny. I believe that you are contributors to this new civilization. It is to stand before the towers of New York and Washington, Chicago and San Francisco, saying in your hearts, I am the descendant of a people that built Damascus and Byblos, and Tyre and Sidon and Antioch, and I am here to build with you, and with a will. It is to be proud of being an American, but it is also to be proud that your fathers and mothers came from a land upon which God laid his gracious hand and raised his messengers. Young Americans of Syrian origin, I believe in you.